We wish to acknowledge that Canada is on Turtle Island, which is a vast territory of traditional landscapes of many Indigenous peoples who over time have occupied and made this land their home from time immemorial. The original peoples who began their journey taking those early footsteps in our creation stories across this land, some came from the stars and others came from the sky, and there were those who came from underground. But there's something important that they all share, and that is their stories of arrival to this land we call home on Turtle Island. Nindinawe Magani Duck, which means all my relations, which means we are all related.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk Politics. Our guest this week is Durham MPP Todd McCarthy. This is a real thrill for me, Todd. It's the first time you and I have ever had the chance to talk. Welcome to the show.
It is. And it's an honor to be on your show. I've been a viewer for many, many years, Deborah.
I want to spend the first half of the show getting to know Todd McCarthy. Recently was listening to your inaugural speech from the legislature, and it was very enlightening. You've been a lawyer most of your life.
Don't hold that.
I have to ask. Sorry?
Don't hold that against me.
No, I won't hold that against you. But I have to ask you, growing up, did you grow up in a political family?
No, I didn't. I grew up in a family that was very engaged in community service of all types, but with a great interest in politics, for sure. My mom and dad, Mary and John McCarthy, who you would have heard me mention in my inaugural speech on August the 10th, taught me about family, and love and community and the importance of education and the importance of community involvement in every way, shape, or form, whether it was going door to door for the United Appeal or later Share Life, whether it was getting involved in sporting activities, whether it was engaging in church activities, or my brother Jerry was a Sixer with the Cub Scouts. And I saw my parents always engaged in community activities and sometimes being involved in local political campaigns of different political stripes. My first real political involvement, having grown up in Scarborough, was to be involved in the 1981 provincial election campaign. Premier Davis won back his majority. I got to meet him for the first time, and I worked on the campaign of the local PC candidate, John Williams, whose son went to school with me at Senator O'Connor School.
I was going to ask you, what was it about Bill Davis? You said in your speech that you were inspired to get involved in politics by Bill Davis. What was it specifically about Davis that inspired you?
Integrity. The fact that he was always a moderate and well-spoken, but chose his words very carefully. The fact that his public persona was very consistent with the individual I met as a student and as I came to know as a would-be candidate. I first met him through Jim Flaherty because I worked on many of Jim Flaherty and Christine Elliott's campaigns, and I had the honor of really getting to know Premier Davis starting around 2006 or so, when he was in his later years. And he was a very, very able and involved individual, even in his 80s. So he was just someone who, to me, personified public service, public duty, a great communicator, a fair man. And yes, he was a proud progressive conservative, but he also understood that governing was about consensus and finding that right balance. That's, I think, how he was able to preside over two back-to-back minority governments.
And talking about consensus and respect, and you also mentioned in your speech your high regard for Lincoln Alexander, quoting him, let us not be average, but do this job and do it well. And you talked about listening respectfully to one another. Do you think that's really been missing from the legislature?
Oh, I think it's still there, Deborah. I really do. I think if we embrace Lincoln Alexander's legacy and his message, that we can still have what the best of parliamentary democracy is all about. And I'll give you an example. I love working with my PC colleagues on the government benches, but I reach across the aisle and I work with the official opposition on the Public Accounts Committee, which is one additional duty that I have alongside being parliamentary assistant to Treasury Board and a deputy government whip and the MPP for Durham. We work on public accounts, and I work with my PC and NDP and Liberal colleagues on that committee, because that committee has the purpose of really a nonpartisan purpose of getting the right information, working with the Auditor General and the senior ministry staff from all ministries to have transparency, to have accountability. So I find that my conversations with both government members and opposition members are very productive, and we're getting it done because we all agree that we serve one citizenry. And I take that same approach to dealing with municipal mayors and councillors and federal members, that we serve one citizenry. Some people like to say there's only one taxpayer. That's true. I prefer to say we all serve one citizenry.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, you chose the law as your profession. You've been a lawyer for many years, a partner in the firm founded by Jim Flaherty and Christine Elliott, who
yes,
you mentioned. And you've also referred to Flaherty as your mentor. Talk to me about that relationship with Jim Flaherty and some of the very important things you've learned.
Sure. Well, and let me just say, I made the joke about don't hold it against me that I'm a lawyer. I always like that joke that most people don't like lawyers generally, but they love their individual lawyer. And I think that's true of politicians as well. Some people say, well, politicians are all the same. But then when they meet the politician who actually does his or her job properly, represents them, advises them, provides access to government services through their office, and is their voice in the nation's capital or the provincial capital, then they do love their individual politician. Jim Flaherty was exactly that. He was my mentor as a lawyer and as a politician. You couldn't be around Jim without being inspired by his advocacy in the courtroom and his advocacy for his community, initially at Queen's Park and then on Parliament Hill. 20 years as a parliamentarian, and before that, 20 years as a lawyer. So what a great career of public service Jim had. And I was close to him. He was a great friend, like a big brother to me. And he inspired me because he really, really did care. He was a great small businessman, and his firm prospered. And I was proud to carry on that legacy after he was elected. When I started there, when it was Flaherty Dow Elliott, it's now Flaherty McCarthy LLP. We went from about 6 lawyers and about 12 staff, and we're now a true boutique law firm with a province-wide practice, 25 lawyers and 35 staff. Now I'm on leave of absence from there, but that's a small business success story, very much because of Jim Flaherty and Christine Elliott. And then they took that determination and that grand vision mentality and brought it forward as public servants, both for the federal government, Canada, in Jim's case, in the province, and then Christine Elliott is our former Deputy Premier and Minister of Health.
He came across in many political examples as being one tough nut to crack. He was tough as nails. But when it came to Jim's family, you could tell he was mush and showed emotion.
He was a great Irish lawyer and politician that way, right? He was tough because he cared, tough because he was principled, but he loved his family dearly. He loved, and that included his extended family and many of us who he treated like extended family. He really did care. And I think that he is a rare person, was a rare person in terms of the way he lived his life and the legacy he left. And Christine and he were a great team. And one of those rare occasions when a husband and wife were both a federal member and provincial member, and they did great work together. Their legacy includes so many things, but it also includes the Ability Center right here in Durham Region, which continues to flourish. Really was an example of public-private sector partnership. Lots of private donations, foundational in nature, and then, of course, top-up contributions from all levels of government. A real great legacy. And my son Jake is a member there, and he very much enjoys being part of it. And when I think of it, in 2006, when we had the first gala that Jim and Christine hosted, Prime Minister Harper was there. At Deer Creek, I was there with my wife. Little Jake was only 8 years old. And here he is, one of many, many thousands of people enjoying the legacy that is the Ability Center. That's just one small example of how much he cared and how hard he worked.
And how much you care about that particular cause. You have, from the beginning, have been a very staunch supporter of the Ability Center. Always.
Now in a different capacity, but yes, as a private citizen, a private sector small business person, our firm was one of the foundational donors early when they needed the seed money, when we couldn't have the gatherings at the Ability Center because it didn't exist. And I remember how proud Jim and Christine were when we were able to actually gather at the Ability Center for our annual dinners.
I want to ask you, then you decided to run for politics, I think at first, a trustee with the Durham Catholic District School Board.
That's right.
What made you decide to get involved?
Well, it's interesting. There was a vacancy in the third year of a 3-year mandate back when municipal and school board were 3-year terms. And I applied to fill a vacancy. The board decided, the Durham separate school board, now the Durham Catholic Board, decided not to have a by-election. I think they interviewed some 15 applicants. I did get the appointment. The election was the next year. Kathy was expecting our second child, Brendan, at the time. And she said, well, 1 year was good. That's fine. And I said, well, I really would like to put my name in the ballot. And she supported me. She was many months pregnant with Brendan, and she was still coming out door to door with me. And we won that election by 3 votes and 2 on the recount, Deborah. So that was a bit of a nail biter, but it was a real honor to then get the full 3-year term. And then by that point, Jake was coming along and decided to take a break from office. And I was starting to really get engaged with Jim Flaherty, who was then a provincial MPP, and he had 2 leaderships that followed. So I played a different role politically by supporting him and his endeavors, and then Christine after that. And then I did serve as a deputy judge for 9 years, in 2002 to 2009. I taught at Durham College in 2010, and then at Queen's as an adjunct professor, so while practicing law. So I found different ways to engage in public service. That's, to my point, elected office is just one form of it. But then I did run provincially and federally 2011 through 2019 unsuccessfully. But, the old Teddy Roosevelt speech from 1910, the man in the arena, it always inspired me, right? It's not the critic who counts. It's he or she who spends oneself in a worthy cause and will never be among those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. So in my case, I ran for the charm, finally, June 2nd, 2022, and that was a successful election. And proud to be part of Doug Ford's, proud to be part of Doug Ford's 5-priority plan that got us reelected with a big majority, or me for the first time elected as a parliamentarian.
With 45% of the vote, you were elected. Why was this the charm? What made this one successful?
I think it's a combination of factors. I think certainly in my case, having run a few times, I knew what it was like to be a candidate. I was able to assemble a team that included some who'd been with me for previous campaigns and some who'd been with me were with me for the first time. I think Doug Ford's leadership during the pandemic made a big difference when we hit the ground knocking on doors in the winter and spring. Universal praise for Premier Ford on his leadership during the pandemic. Universal praise for our 5 priorities that resonated with people. And I was known as a candidate who hadn't won. And people, I think they wish you well. I think they see, well, here's your time. You're going to get it this time. We're going to support you because of Doug Ford, because of your PC plan, and because of you. And those 3 factors all combined to a great election night celebration on June 2nd.
Okay, I'm going to hold you there. We're going to take a quick break. More of our conversation with Durham MPP Todd McCarthy after this.
Hi, I'm Justice.
And I'm Nia. And we believe
Dreams fuel revolutions.
That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrive Alive smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
And welcome back to Talk Politics. Our guest this week is Durham MPP Todd McCarthy. Now that we've gotten to know you, let's talk a bit about some of the issues provincially. I want to get your thoughts on Bill 23. Local mayors that we've spoken to understand the need, of course, for more housing. But this bill, many of them tell us, caught them by surprise because they say there was zero consultation and it was brought into law even before they took office. And why the haste? How do you respond to that?
Well, Bill 23 and 39, our housing supply bills, Deborah, should come as no surprise to anyone. They build on the previous provincial parliament's housing supply bill. They build on the reality that everyone recognized in the election where the PC government, our PC government, received an overwhelmingly renewed mandate with more seats and a higher popular vote, that we need to build homes. We have 2 million people coming to the province of Ontario over the next 10 years. We need to build 1.5 million homes, not one size fits all. So this we've known about. And the great thing is when I talk to our mayors, and I've got 3 mayors who I regularly stay in touch with in the riding of Durham, Oshawa's Dan Carter, Clarington's Adrian Foster, and our new mayor in Scugog, Wilma Watton, and formerly Bobby Drew, who I had a great relationship with. And we all agree we have to build these homes. So the great thing is we agree on that. And what Bill 23 and 39 as further housing supply bills do, as I've explained to the mayors and all of the residents that who I've spoken to of late, is it begins the conversation. Yes, it's for the province to take the lead, to lead with bold, innovative action to address a problem that we all know exists. And to do that by beginning conversations, and that's what this enables, conversations about how to responsibly extend the urban boundary, how to make sure that we add to the green belt where we can, how to build mixed types of housing, how to, for example, build community hubs like we hope we can do around the Bowmanville GO train extension, where we can build condominiums, mixed use, and townhouses where people are within walking distance of the GO train. Because like Kathy and I, for example, for many years, she worked locally and I hopped on the GO train to go to downtown Toronto to my law office when I wasn't working in the Whitby Durham law office. So, it's not a one size fits all. So those are very positive conversations. I've met with the mayors and councillors, and I've got some great feedback. How are we going to make sure that we responsibly address their ability to fund infrastructure? How can the province help and partner with that? That conversation's beginning. And we're gonna find a way together, because there is no way anyone can do this alone, but the provincial government can and must lead. That's what Bill 23 and Bill 39 are about. And as I said, the conversation and the way forward is just beginning in terms of how we accomplish this together. We need to do it as a partnership. And that's what I'm going to do. That's what Premier Ford is promising to do. That's what Minister Clark is promising to do. That's what every MPP is being asked to do. And I intend to join that cause.
Yeah, we just actually, speaking of Dan Carter, we just had Dan Carter on the show. And one of the conversations that we had was about the cap on development charges having a profound effect on their budgets and their ability to have enough money to do what they need to do. How do you respond to that concern?
Well, the Premier has assured everyone, all the mayors, that the municipalities will be made whole. They will be able to fund the needed infrastructure. We do know that there is $9 billion of previously collected development charge fees currently being held by municipalities, 2.3 billion in Toronto alone. We know that we've had some loud, outspoken, unfair criticism from mayors like Bonnie Crombie in Mississauga, and the premier is addressing that. But, I know Dan very well, and I know I've come to know Adrian and Wilma very well, and I'm very confident that if I listen and they listen and we work together, we can achieve what we all know is the common goal of building 1.5 million homes. And Durham is and will continue to be the fastest growing region in the GTA. And I'm very proud of that. And we've got to be ready for that. And that's very much because of our Durham College and Ontario Tech post-secondary institutions right here. It's about the jobs associated with that. It's about the investments in the SMR at Darlington. It's about the new electric vehicle plant at General Motors. I mean, what an opportunity we have. And we need to make sure that the supply of housing meets the demand that is present and will be there so that it's attainable. And again, not one size fits all. So that's the conversation that I've started with Dan and with Adrian and Wilma, and I'm going to continue with that.
Speaking about supply, mayors have also expressed to us that home builders are experiencing soaring material costs and a serious lack of labor, to the point where, the permits are ready, but the home builders are holding off because of that. How do you deal with that kind of issue?
Yeah, there's no question we have a skilled labor shortage, and we need to address that if we're going to meet this goal, and we will address that with incentives and with promoting the skilled trades. We also know that inflation has been a problem, but the good news is we're seeing that being checked, and we expect and believe that the inflationary pressure is going to ease significantly as we get into the second half of the year. And many of the things that can be done to help the skilled labor shortage to be addressed, to get the skilled labor in place that we need, will be addressed in this year's budget. And we've already begun the pre-budget consultations with Peter Bethlenfalvy, our Minister of Finance, and the member for Pickering-Uxbridge. We're so lucky to have him as one of our Durham MPPs.
I also want to ask you about the recent announcement of community surgical and diagnostic centers now eliminate the surgical backlogs and reduce wait times. Healthcare workers have experienced or have expressed concerns that that's going to mean a loss of nursing staff, healthcare staff from the hospitals, where they're already short of people, who are going to migrate over to the new surgical centers. How do you respond to that concern?
Oh, I understand the concern's been raised. I see tremendous opportunities for our universal public health care to be improved and enhanced. First of all, the diagnostic care and surgical announcement by the Premier and the Minister of Health earlier this week, Debra, is really designed to lead and innovate in the area of delivery of public health care. The citizens of Ontario expect and will continue to be able to count on accessing public health care with their health cards, not their credit cards. And also the people of Ontario and their families, they don't care where they have that procedure, whether it's in a hospital, whether it's in a not-for-profit or a private clinic. Universal public health care can be delivered in different ways, and that's what this addresses. As far as staffing is concerned, we're going to see an increase in the number of nurses. We're going to see an increase in the number of PSWs. We're going to see an increase in the number of doctors. We're making record investments in healthcare, not just healthcare infrastructure and hospitals, but in personnel, in making sure that we have the stay and learn credit for nurses, for example. So there's going to be many, many well-paying jobs in healthcare, more than ever before, because we're making the investments and setting up the environment to put in motion wherever our health professionals work. Doesn't matter, as long as they're part of delivering public health care for all of our citizens. That's a made in Ontario, made in Canada solution. And the Premier is in conversation with the Prime Minister, knowing that we serve one citizenry, as he often says, one taxpayer. We're going to get a deal on that federal provincial healthcare funding arrangement, which will help increase the revenue to do all the things that need to be done, hiring more nurses, making sure we have well-paying jobs for our health professionals who are on the front line, and respecting them in that regard. So I'm very proud of what the Premier is doing with his leadership in getting it done, both with federal healthcare transfer plans and with the investments in healthcare, and with talking about innovative delivery of public health care, which is what Monday's announcement was about.
And of course, talking about delivery of healthcare services, pharmacists now have an increased role
Yes.
in what they can do. I'll tell you, major convenience here, isn't it?
Yes, as of January 1st, Deborah, we have now 13 common ailments that can be addressed by pharmacists and patients. And this expedites access to these common minor ailments, whether it be pink eye or a bladder infection, working with the pharmacist who often knows the patient as well, if not better than the family doctor. So this addresses those who may not have a family doctor at this point until we get more in the system. And I'm very proud of that announcement, and we're spreading it far and wide. When I tell people about it, I guess because we were still on Christmas holidays when it came about, a lot of people were pleased and surprised and wanted to know more. So I've been talking about it in my community office. I've been putting it on social media, but it's a great new efficient way, again, of delivering public health care in an innovative and different way, but in a more effective way.
Okay, we only have about 45 seconds left.
Okay.
So I just want to get from you, what's number one on your to-do list over the next 4 years?
Over the next 4 years is to make sure that people see government as not some big, anonymous, distant creature, but to be able to say here in Durham riding and hopefully in every other riding, you know, I know who my MPP is, and representative democracy is alive and well. Parliamentary democracy is alive and well. I watch what my MPP is doing. He is accessible to me, and he's earned my trust, even if I didn't vote for him on June 2nd. So my greatest goal would be to be reelected on that record, Deborah, and to increase my vote share because I've impressed those who maybe didn't support me in the 2022 election. That's the positive outcome I want to see. I aim to impress, to earn reelection from those who supported me and to gain additional support from those who I've impressed.
And with that, we are out of time. Sir, it has been an absolute blast getting to know you.
Same here.
And I'm hoping we can get you back on the show.
Anytime. I'm happy to come live in person in studio as well. Okay.
We're moving towards that, and I can't wait. Our guest this week has been Durham MPP Todd McCarthy. Our thanks to MPP McCarthy, and thanks to you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Debra Hutchison. Take care, everyone.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
I'm Gagweg. My name means everything.
Tom Longboats.
I am Wolf Clan, Onondaga Nation. I've run many different races. I've run to survive and to be free. I've run to win for honor.
His people might be lazy, but this one's damn fast.
My people respected our runners, people who carried important messages from village to village.
I need a guide to the next post. Dispatch carrier, sir. I can get you there.
God sakes, man, slow down. Who do you think I am, Tom Longboat?
No, sir. I am.
Running makes me feel alive. It's everything.
Tom Longboat was the first Indigenous person to win the Boston Marathon. He ran his way to international fame and became an inspiration to generations of athletes.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario,